Hello, hello, I think we're streaming. It takes a while. Yeah, hello, it's been a few weeks since I last did anything. Jane's mum died a few weeks ago, so we've kind of had a lot to deal with going on with that kind of stuff and whatnot. Yeah, so I haven't really been around. When I have been around, I've just been faffing about in No Man's Sky. Actually, I've really got quite addicted to No Man's Sky, but we want to get back to Everquest. I'm trying to remember what I was doing before. I was working on Cold Aim faction, which I've got up to amiable, which I'm happy about. And then I started doing the what was I doing? I was doing the shawl quests. I did the first one, and then I collected. I think they're in the bank actually. I'm not sure how many I need, but it doesn't matter. I collected the giant heads, and I got enough to do that quest as well. But unfortunately, I made a mistake. In that I turned in the box with the heads, but then I kind of didn't realise that you have to turn in the level 1 shawl as well, so I kind of lost the heads. I did have quite a few spare heads by that time, but not enough, so I need a few more heads. That's alright. I logged in this morning and I was kind of thinking about trying to find a more suitable XPing location. So I'm fighting giants and they're blue and I'm getting XP for them, so you know, it's alright. I like being in Velious. I like the snowy, I like any snowy biomes in a game. Have I come the wrong way? Maybe. Oh, it's up there. No, I was kind of around the giant village up here. Yeah, but that's what I was doing. But I think I'll carry on just killing giants. I get XP for them. They're probably a bit harder than they're probably a bit harder mobs than I should be killing just to XP on. But if I can get the head drops, that's all right. Yes, I got up to level 47 last when I stopped playing. Yeah, here we are back again, going beating up some giants. You know, I've never seen anyone here actually. What I did fight once, and it was close. I was kind of going to run at one point, but I hung in there. Is that there's I don't know if it's a named or if it's a rarey one or whatever, but there's a giant that spawns down here. Not a giant, a wolf. I think it's a Drakel Blood Wolf, or it's something Blood Wolf, and I killed it a couple of times, and yeah, it dropped some stuff. I can't remember what it dropped. I think I might have sold the stuff actually. The older giants drop a beard occasionally, where you can get a nice little strength buff, which is good. I want to thank, yeah, the 2 or 3 of you who have donated. Let's wait for that guy to wander past. Donated stuff to the cause, much appreciated. Anyone who has donated any stuff, you know, if you ever want it back, just let me know. I mean, I think I've kind of probably said that to you, and I think you said you didn't, but if you ever do, just give me a shout. I think, yeah, the dwarves sell muffins, which is good. It's funny going to the bank. Like I've before I started, my shame had made some potions and stuff, like spirit wolf potions and that kind of thing, and I've really kind of tried not to use them. But sometimes running around, particularly in the Velious zones where they're just so big, the zones, it can get really frustrating. So I've kind of used more than I would have liked. I need to get myself some J boots. I was speaking to one of you a few weeks ago actually, I think, about it, and they said to go and camp the Ocean of Tears one. I'm not sure what the camp is like there now. I don't know if you just go there and just get in your queue, wait your turn, or if maybe because there's not many people around, you can just camp it. Maybe I should go and do that. I think you kind of get quite close to a level, like level 50, and then you just want to press on and get 50. It's interesting playing like a melee class in general that I haven't really played before. You get such a more of a feel for how amazingly balanced the game is that you don't get like playing a shaman or an enchanter, for example. So, like these fights, for example, sometimes you get one that's a bit hairy, but as I've gained a few levels here, and as I've leveled, you really feel the balance of like fighting these at level 44 or whatever it was, and you know, fights being close. Sometimes you've got to run, that kind of thing. But you kind of, even just gaining a level or two, you kind of yeah, you kind of get a feel for how the balance of power changes, as it were. I don't know why that's there. Ow. Hi Rob, yeah, that would be nice. That would be nice. The other thing that I found as well playing melee characters, there's a massive issue here with anything that looks solid, because it's not. The giants basically see through these walls, and they will run through the walls as well. It's interesting, like playing a warrior as well. I spoke about this before, but just how the developers were just so aware of how they design their classes, and they didn't leave a class that didn't have like any effects that some of the other classes have. They're like quality of life stuff, you know. So you can get items that invis you or make you run faster and all that kind of stuff. It was yeah, amazing design. It's amazing as well, like the simple things that these like indie classic MMOs are missing. Like, so I've made a little list up before I took a little break, and it's astonishing, like small spells and effects that feel quite niche or small, but how like a massive impact they have on the game. Things like that, water breathing, levitate, invisibility. There's a number of them that I wrote on the list. I can't remember where they are now. Most of the MMOs that we're currently seeing in the indie sphere don't have any of these abilities, and I think these abilities were really important, and they just added to the overall experience in the game in a big way. Like, you think like water breathing, you think, well, whatever, but actually, not just the fact that you got some like a few zones kind of where it's very important. One or two zones where maybe it's crucial, but just even if this some simple things like levitate. Like levitate is a quality of life spell. It allows you to get around a bit easier, but it also, like when you're running around with levitate, like running around on a character of levitate in this zone, for example, and then running around on this character doesn't have levitate. It's amazing how different the game is, how different the zone is, how you look at the zone differently. Whether it's better or not, I don't know, but the fact that the option is there is pretty cool. And obviously you've got zone, you've got like a plane based around levitate. So it wasn't as though these systems were put in the game just left. They were kind of integral parts. And even invisibility, like many of the indie MMOs just don't seem to be doing it or incorporating it. These very simple abilities that are just being ignored. And it's funny because it like people moaned about World of Warcraft being a dumbing down of Everquest, but these games are also like a dumbing down in many ways. Simple things like charm is an ability that we're seeing less and less, if at all. It's It's odd. Now, Berserkers are harder than the Scouts. I do fight them. I kind of try. I try to avoid them sometimes, but maybe you do get lots of Scouts running around here. There's a couple of named in there. I checked up on the names. I think one of them is part of a quest that was never implemented, or it's implemented further down the timeline. Another guy's just a guy. I think it didn't even drop anything particularly useful. Yeah, I need to look out for that wolf because although I beat him, it's pretty hardcore. There's a dude sitting up there. Is that a dude up there? Yep. Oh no, I think someone's pulled that giant. Okay, there's someone fighting giants over there as well. That's probably why there's not many here. There's normally a lot of giants wandering around this location. Who's in the zone? There's normally no one here. Musician, a magician, and a monk, and an anonymous character who I guess might be like, you know, buffing them or something. I guess. Okay. Right, where was that dude? Let's give the Berserker a go. I beat these before, but occasionally you have to run away. I run away quite slowly. It's not far. I think I kind of took the long route, but it's actually not far getting back to the dwarf guards. Oh, I think we're trying to disarm this dude. One of the little details I noticed that doesn't seem to be a thing, and maybe I've just been reading it wrong, is that I thought when I disarmed something, then it would maybe lower their max damage, but it doesn't seem to do that. This just seems to do the same damage. I guess if I disarm one of these guys with a Velious weapon, then they won't get the proc, but the proc doesn't really do any damage anyway. I tried Qualm, yeah, it was alright. I wasn't keen on I'm not keen on the TAC-P camera angle thing, but I think they fixed that with a, with a thing. Yeah, I don't know about Qualm. It's funny because I think they've made a lot of changes to the game, so it's not very classic, but they're the kind of changes that maybe I think to myself, oh, that'd be quite good for me. You know, from just a quality of life thing, but yeah, I don't know. I played it initially for a bit, but that was. I think they fixed the camera thing with I think someone did a little patch or a mod or something to help the camera. Oh, I don't need those anymore, but we'll get them. I think the heads are a lot rarer than the. Hey Don, how you doing, mate? I think the heads are a lot rarer than the toes. Yeah, I can't play. I tried one of the TLP servers a while ago. I just can't play on it. It just feels so unclassic. Everything about it. It's difficult. I mean, like P99 is not like word for word, but I think it's probably the most classic. I think it's definitely the most classic PC client. If that's what you're looking for. Qualm's based on TAC-P, but I think Secrets has added a load of quality of life stuff that Everquest didn't have. So, I don't think it's a particularly classic experience, but I guess if you're looking for classic EverQuest but a bit easier, you know, or a bit more quality of life, then yeah, I started a troll on a TLP a while ago, and I remember appearing in Innerfall Swamp and thinking, this is not Innerfall Swamp. Now she logged off. Blue. I've got some dudes on green as well. Maybe if it comes up, we'll give it a go. But I think the wolves run faster than me, as you would expect. I need to look into some leveling spots, I think. When I get the heads for the shawl thing, I'm not quite. I think the third part of the shawl needs some trade skilling. But I'm already thinking about my next kind of melee tank dude. I've kind of made a troll Shadow Knight actually, so that'll probably be the next one. It's nice to get an idea for different classes, and you know, with a bit of tweaking, it's not hard to get the classes to 50, like even soloing. Yeah, I think like classic EverQuest dungeon crawling is second to none. There's never been a game, single player or MMO, that's ever produced. It's just an amalgamation of level design, mob AI, even when the AI goes wrong, and the toolboxes that you're given to, you know, to work within the dungeons are like a sandbox all on their own really, aren't they? Yeah, it's never been as I said before as well. You can go into an EverQuest dungeon like 1,000 times, and you'll have a different experience every time, just because of the amazing design. Like, I'm not sure if emergent design or gameplay was a term back then, but yeah. Even when you go back to games of that time, like Dark Age of Camelot, like the dungeon crawling experience didn't feel anything like the EverQuest one, although the game had similar toolboxes. Ultram Online was pretty decent in that regard. Like, I loved barding myself way around a dungeon. I think it's only really the like modern MMOs, more modern single player RPGs kind of suck for dungeon crawling experiences. Maybe apart from the Infinity Engine style ones, but I think it's like the turn based ones really that give the best dungeon crawling experience, like Dungeon Master, Eye of the Beholder, that kind of thing. I mean, they're a lot more tactical than like Witcher 3, for example. Although Witcher 3 doesn't really have that sort of dungeon crawling experience, unfortunately. I just don't think designers, even designers currently, even designers who have released indie MMOs, who maybe worked on classic MMOs, I just don't think they under. Oh, it's ahead. I don't know how many I've got. I think I've got 7 or 8 now. So I left them in the bank. I should have checked the bank before I came out. Yeah, I don't think that they understand them really anymore. I don't think they or they're not, or they're just not. They just haven't got the, the design chops to replicate. Hey mate, yeah, she'll be on for a bit, a couple of hours, I think, probably. Oh, if you can, mate, yeah. If not, don't worry. But if you can, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I mean, going back to what you're saying about dungeons, there are still some really interesting dungeons in Velious. Some of the dungeons kind of double up as like raid areas, don't they? But like I can't remember what it's called, but the I think the Tower of Frozen Shadow is an amazing dungeon with some really unique ideas. The dungeon, I can't remember what it's called, but the dungeon where you got the orcs and you go down the dungeon to the bottom bit and you got these golems and stuff or whatever. That's a great dungeon as well. And you got the bit. Is that the same? It might be the same dungeon actually, but you got the section. You got the underground dwarf city, and you got the dungeon stuff around there. Crystal Caverns, yeah, that was really good. And Tower of Frozen Shadow as well. I like the fact that Tower of Frozen Shadow was kind of like it was like a it was like a power metal it's like a power metal concept album. Like the whole dungeon was just designed around a concept that was really cool. Thanks, mate. I was looking at and I think it kind of equals itself out a little bit after 50, like when Kunark came out. But I was surprised that somehow how like some combat skills how much lower Warrior one's capped at than. Oh, didn't I hit him? That happens occasionally. I don't seem to hit the thing. I think I turned too quickly. Some of the combat skills on a warrior cap lower than a monk, which I thought was quite weird. I'd have thought that they were kind of the warrior would at least be you know the combat skill cap king. As I said, I think they kind of even out after 50, but before 50 it was quite weird to see how low some of them are. You can't hit. Yeah, sometimes if the I'm not sure if maybe that was just a miss. I think even misses aggro them though. But yeah, depending on the axis, how much higher you are than some mobs, sometimes you can't hit them. Gets a gets a proc. The last one I fought got a proc on the first hit as well. I'd like to see what their dex is. Not sure if there's on the wiki it's got the stats of their strengths and stuff. I don't think it has. I think it was all kept quite secret, that stuff. I'm sure someone can look into the code and find out. I haven't played around with Berserk too much yet. I kind of want to. Um, I think these giants just hit too hard, and sometimes, you know, it's difficult to survive. What I would sometimes do is start at about 50% health. So then once they knock me down to 40, we'll see if we can get some big hits in. I think like I probably need to get a dex set of some kind, just to allow me to get more crits than normal. What ones did I kill? I don't know what rotation I'm on. I'm assuming one of these dudes will spawn it at some point soon. What's good about that as well is that you do like I might try and look around for a different breastplate, because like for many of the camps that I've done, I have found that after a certain point, the fungi is obviously still amazing, but if you want to stay in if you want to stay in Berserk, I think it's better to not have a fungi, have a decent breastplate with a lot of AC, maybe some hit points, and yeah, and just kind of bandage yourself up to 50% and then fight again. My bandaging, well, I got my bandaging up quite high actually. I did spend a lot of time bandaging. I think I can only do 50% still at the moment, so I need to go, I think, is it called bandaging? No, bind wound. Yeah, it's not going to get it to 150. That's weird. I just feel that warrior should be able to get higher than that. It shouldn't cap at that, I don't think. But yeah, after 50, I can I can bandage up to 70% or something. I think this was what that... Oh, yeah, that's what that Blood Wolf dropped. Blood Wolf Harness. AC 5, 20 mana. You know, I don't know. Even if you were untwinked and you got to this point, I'm not quite sure that would be an upgrade for... It's probably not a bad... like Shadow Knight or Paladin one. I need to go back to the Paladin as well, get that to 50 at some point. That's another goal. It's funny because I found the Warrior more engaging than the Paladin, which I think is why I just kind of carried on and pushed through to where we currently are. I'm sure the Paladin will probably be more engaging from a point of view of dungeon crawling and just if you're soloing kind of thing, you just got more options. But yeah, I've really found the Warrior compelling with how mechanically how it works. But as I said earlier, you know, the thing I found most compelling about it is just it's just how it gives you a completely different outlook and the correct outlook on like being in combat in Everquest. Because I mean, I did used to do some melee with a shaman. With my shaman used to melee quite a lot, like even like in the high levels. But it's just not the same. It's not the same at all. Being a class where that's all you've got to rely on is your combat skills. A couple of times where I tried a little bit of kiting as well. That was quite interesting. Friends of the channel donated a Taliesin bow of the Trailblazer to me, which was pretty cool. Oh, thanks, mate. Much appreciated. Yeah, you understand so much more about the game playing a class that stands there just getting hit and hits things, you know, and that's kind of their stand. I understand a lot more now about power levels in relation to, you know, the effect of leveling changes, fighting the same mobs and stuff. It's easy not to really notice that kind of stuff when you're fighting, when you're using a character that has got a toolbox of spells that like kind of does all the hard work for you, you know. Thanks, mate, for that. Much appreciated. Okay, well, I think even buffed, I don't think I'll take those two. I'll wait for just the one. I enjoyed, I got myself, where is it? I got myself a worker sledgehammer, worker sledge mallet as well. But I actually got it, actually grinded for it, the faction and stuff. I did do it during an XP bonus where there seemed to be a faction bonus as well. So it was a bit easier, but I enjoyed doing that. That's pretty cool. It didn't take as many turn-ins as I expected. Obviously, I think because there was a faction bonus, but looking on the wiki, like in general, it's not a crazy grind. I think we can pull this dude. It's interesting also, like, I think I know I'm repeating myself, I probably said this on the last stream, but these are things that really stand out, is where like you just go through like a series of misses as well. It's interesting where they capped the skills. So like my attack skill, my offense skill, for example, and weapon skills kind of stopped a couple of levels ago or whatever, and that's where they were capped. It's interesting there. It's interesting that design. I'm guessing it's because, well, I'm assuming really, because it seems logical. It's because they knew that at these levels to get to 50, you'll be fighting mobs that were, you know, probably level 40 roughly or so, and so you know, capping the skills then, I guess, would mean that it would just generally be more fairer on the mobs, maybe. I guess. I'm not trying to work it out. What would you have? 50 levels. Yeah, so I think warrior is five per level plus 5. So I guess what they're, if you got plus 5 every level up to 50, what would that be? 255 your skill would be by the time you got to 50. Probably yeah. Ooh. I think, how many charges have I got? Okay, we'll get rid of that one. We'll pick up a new beard. Frost giant meat. I think I can make stuff out of that, but I don't have any cooking. I don't have any cooking skill at the moment, so. I think there was a Berserker around somewhere. Wait for him to come back. I was looking at the other day. I was looking at some stuff, some quality of life stuff, and it's amazing how expensive certain things are. I think it's like I'll have a look, but I think the cobalt armor piece that's got shrink on is really expensive. Now, particularly in Velious, like shrink's not a big deal. I think people like shrink just because you know, it is convenient anywhere if you're an ogre, but it's not essential. So I was quite surprised to see that it's so expensive. But you know, certainly I do find it annoying navigating the dwarf place. Like when you go to the bank there, you have to essentially duck just to be able to move around. But I was surprised at some of the stuff, like the breastplate. Obviously, I can understand the cost of that, but I was surprised that yeah, most of it's quite cheap actually. But I think it was the shrink one that was really expensive. Maybe it's because a lot of warriors are trolls and ogres, so there's a high demand for it. So you're talking about servers earlier on, like I was thinking about TACP as well, and I really enjoyed TACP, and it was definitely a server that allowed someone who plays off peak to do a lot more. But I did quite having like a trio of characters. But again, it was a feeling thing. It's weird. It was a feeling thing again, where it just didn't feel quite right. I guess maybe it was just the years of playing, um, the amount of years of playing on P99. Let's pull this dude. Wait for 40. What's my 111 decks at the moment? Yeah, I spoke to someone in game who was a level 60 warrior, like raiding warrior. They said it's probably quite useful to get a dex piece. The dex, like just increase your dex a bit, to help with the procs and stuff, and your critical hits as well. If you do that, I think critical hits are governed by your dex. That's what I read anyway. I need to. One of the other goals I've got is to get. Always another head. That's two. I can't remember how many heads I had back at camp. It might be 6. So maybe I need a couple more heads. Yeah, I made that noob mistake of turning the heads in, but not the shawl, not the shawl with it. So it was kind of like, yeah, I lost it, lost the stuff. I got the shawl actually. Oh, maybe it's in the bank. Must be in the bank. I think that was such a cool quest, that like where like quests that incorporating like trade skills as well, to encourage you to do trade skills. Really cool. It's amazing as well, the content available on P99 to do, the amount of things to do. I know some people might just see it as like grindy things, grinding faction, etc. and whatever, but there's so much for you to do. Like even if you're someone who plays solo a lot, and if you play certain classes like enchanters or whatever, then there's even more for you to do. You know, it's pretty amazing. I mean, you could literally. I know some people do just play P99. That's all they play. There's so much to do. Did a bit of dungeoneering with the warrior as well. Obviously, it helps being twinked, but it's like I kind of feel that sometimes there are people who, I don't know if they're like the real hardcore sort. I think they kind of want to make things harder than they are, or make things appear to be harder than they are. So it's kind of like a badge of honour thing, you know. They almost talk other people out of doing it, so they're kind of the only ones that do it. What I'm trying to say is that with a bit of quality of life stuff that you can camp yourself, you know. I mean, I didn't have any root nets, but if I'd had those, like crawling, doing a little bit of dungeon crawling, would have been perfectly viable. Not like enchanters, obviously, but certainly would have been very viable. I need to go back, but I went to Permafrost and did some stuff in there because I wanted to get a bit for like a quest turning, armor quest turning. What's it called? Have I got some crafted armor? Yeah. But holy smokes, the path! I had to take my shaman over in the end to help out because the pathing in that zone is mental. There's a couple of times where I don't know if anyone knows it, but there's a certain mob who is near the king, whatever his name is, the Goblin King bloke, and they're kind of out in the open, but they're not far from the ice giants. The amount of times I had to run to the zone because I'd pull a goblin and I was trying to stand in exactly the same place to pull them, and like one time it would reach me, but in a roundabout way. But at least it would kind of get there. But then another time it would just vanish, and then I was getting pummeled on by ice giants. Obviously, it had pulled from somewhere. Yeah, the pathing in that zone is shocking. Yeah, I've got some bits lying around to turn in, even if I'm not wearing them. Like I'd like to get a complete set, just for the fun of it, really. Like I've got an Aviac charm here. What I haven't got is the gems because I need to. There seem to be places you can buy them, but not every jeweler's got them. So I need to pick up some gems. But I got the feet, the legs. I think this helm. I love the colour, like a full set. It's almost like a silvery. It's like silvery metal colour, but there's a hint of blue which I really, yeah, I've got a crafted helm as well, which I really like. Got charisma and wisdom for some bizarre reason. It's funny how the stat allocation on some items for certain classes. I mean, like, so, I remember when I did the shaman totemic stuff. It's like, that had like strength and stamina, which is kind of still useful, but like charisma on a warrior bit, or wisdom, maybe charisma. There was a time where charisma warriors were all the rage, weren't they? I don't know if they still are. Was it because of a certain proc spell or something? I can't remember. Because everyone was making like wood elf warriors or something, or whatever it was. I'm not sure if that's still the case. But yeah, like wisdom on a warrior piece just seems a bit weird. I guess they just wanted to balance it so there was a mixture of stats across the whole range. I also wonder if certain stats were going to play more of a part in certain things. I know that I'm not sure how true it is, but I know that people say that certain stats increase the skill level up speed of certain crafting stuff. I'm not sure if that's actually true though. But maybe there were more things that were going to be impacted by stats, even if that wasn't a main stat for a class. But I don't know. I think even if you twinked, I think the 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 basic like armor questing set I think is something to do, because it's really interesting, and it sends you around the vanilla game as well. Like basically, yeah, I've been from permafrost basically to the other end of the map, just looking for items. Hey mate, how you doing? Yep, pretty good. I'm doing that British thing where I'm like, oh, it's too hot now. It's not really. It's kind of been like mid-20s, I suppose, slightly higher. My mum lives in London, and obviously she's she's an old lady now. She phones up and says, I'm just sitting with, I've got 4 fans blowing on me, and all the windows open. I've been telling her for a few years now, just buy a portable air conditioning system. And she goes, yeah, I will, yeah. I'll get you to order me off for Amazon, is her favourite saying. She phones out and I say, I told you last year to buy a... It's funny also, I don't want to get too controversial, but it's funny seeing the messaging now around the weather in the UK. So it hasn't been very hot at all, but they're trying to make it sound like it's really hot. And like this year is like the hot, even though like we've had summers in the UK where temperatures have been in the 30s, like mid 30s, like late 30s, if you live in the south in certain locations. And also, like, someone did a thing like someone was comparing BBC weather charts over the years, and they've kind of upgraded their colours. So, like, for the mid-20s, you now get like a really deep red colour, whereas before they would use that colour for like a 30 or 35 or something. So, it's just this constant messaging about the weather and how it's changing. Yeah, but I mean, it hasn't been hot here at all. I'm just a pasty Brit, It's like, and also like it has a massive impact on my health generally, negatively, which is weird because, like last year, my health improved more in that year than it had done. Yeah, sometimes this guy spawns as a scout, rarely. more than it had done in that year last year than it had done for like 9 years before. There'd been like steady progress, but then like 3 or 4 years ago it just stagnated. But then last year things got much better, and they're still good to a point where I can kind of go out on my own and wander around for a little bit and stuff. Like I've got like a morning vigil to Costa Coffee at the moment. It's quite close to me. Yeah, and we thought last year it was because like, it coincided with. Well, I think we had quite a warm year last year. Maybe there wasn't a lot of sun, but it was quite warm, and we thought it was maybe the weather that was helping because a lot of people with my thing have kind of found that they've kind of gone to live in a drier, warmer part of the country or to a different country, and their health's improved. But yeah, it's like over the winter things got a bit worse again, and they haven't really improved this summer. They're still better than they were, so you got to appreciate small mercies, I guess. Yeah, but the weather this year is a bit of a drag. Makes me feel like I'm carrying even heavier weights around with me. Yeah, Texas, I can't imagine. But I guess, I don't know. See, I'm not sure if you've been to the UK or what you would find, but I know people that have come from hot countries. The problem here is the humidity. So I know people that have come here from hot countries where the temperatures are much hotter than here, and they get here and it's like the mid-20s and they go, Jesus Christ, this is horrible. And it's only in the mid-20s. I think the issue is that it's so humid is the problem. I guess being an island, surrounded by water, being a small island surrounded by water and with a Gulf Stream and stuff, maybe that's what it is. But yeah, I've known people that have come here from America, for example, where you are, in states where it's much hotter than here, but they get here and it's like, Jesus. And I've seen some YouTube videos as well of people saying, "Oh, the Brits moan when it's like 25," and I've just come from where it's 35. And then they come here and they go back and do a video and they say, "I can understand it because there's something wrong with the heat there." it's like it's not as hot as where I've come from, but it just feels horrible because you just feel sticky and all the time. I just feel sticky all the time, which is probably not a nice thing for you to hear, but there you go. Okay, humidity. Yeah, it's horrible. And particularly in the south, you can't get away from it here. If you go up north a bit to Scotland, it's fresher all the time. Not as hot though. We talked about moving up north once, but my wife likes what we do get of a summer, and I think she said it's just too cold going up north. Yeah, I can't imagine like that humidity. I know that like here, again, it might. I guess it's probably not that hot for you, but like yeah, I remember over the last few years, there's been a few times where we've had temperatures like between 30 and 40, and yeah, it's been absolute carnage. Everything stops here as well. I think that we're so used to the weather just being general, uh, like it's pretty even keel, like there's obviously big temperature changes, but quite often like the winter can be pretty mild in comparison to other countries, and so it's kind of like a mildish kind of temperature all year round. So when you do get like a really hot or really cold snap, the whole country kind of just shuts down. It just can't deal with it in any way. No one's got air conditioning in their houses because they don't need it really most of the time. It's only occasionally. That's lucky. Yeah, Scotland's a lovely country. I did some my don't know what you'd call it, my gene pool, like my heritage as it were, has got a fair bit of Scottish in it, and Scottish, Viking and German, strangely, along with the other stuff, the Anglo-Saxon, Celtic kind of stuff. Real hodgepodge. Yeah, Scotland's lovely, and it is always cooler. Depending on where you are, though, you get a midge problem. You don't really get any of those kind of insect problems here, but holy smoke, Scotland's got certain times of the year get massive midge problems. We live. I know that the English weather is a bit of a meme, but to be honest with you, it's like there are certain parts of the country that drag it down for everyone else. So, like we've been on holiday to Lake District, and in the summer, and it just rained every day. It rained torrential rain every day. Apparently, I feel sorry for the Welsh because it feels like it. I mean, it feels like it rains every day in Wales. It feels like, I'm sure it doesn't, but yeah, it's not as bad. It's not as much of a meme as you hear about. I think in general it doesn't really do anything. That's the thing. It's neither hot nor cold, sunny or cloudy. It's just a thing that happens. But it's all controlled by that Gulf Stream thing that is just so dominant where we are. Occasionally we'll get in the winter you'll get like an easterly. So we get weather from Russia and the like. It was only a few years ago we actually had they call them these cute little names like Beast from the East and all that sort of rubbish. But yeah, we had a few years ago we had a winter where we got an easterly blowing in from Siberia or wherever it was, and holy smokes, it was cold. Literally everything was frozen. Central heating, pipes. We had to get some bloke out to unfreeze our central heating. Yeah, it was cold, but that's rarity. But actually, people who come to the UK, I think particularly from America, I see quite a lot of videos on YouTube. I seem to be quite surprised at a lot of the memes about the UK, like the weather and food particularly, is not. I'm not quite sure where the food thing came from. Maybe it was because we really embraced like packet frozen food. But I mean, the UK is surrounded by we've got some of the best fish and lamb and beef from anywhere really. And we've always had that. I guess what we used to do is just put them in a packet with a load of shit. But yeah, food in the UK is awesome. And even the traditional foods, like weird things like, like there isn't anything more. I like comfort food, satisfying food. So when I finish my meal, I like to think, that was I feel it feels like a hug kind of thing. And we've got some of the best foods for that. Puddings and pies and like even fish and chips. I love fish and chips. Fish and chips with salt and vinegar on. Holy smoke. If you want to do fish and chips proper British way, bit of vinegar, bit of salt. That's your lot. But I imagine a lot of the stereotypes around America are the same as well. Like sometimes the news over here kind of gives you the impression that in America it's like the Wild West. Like whatever city you go to, there's people packing, got guns in holsters and stuff, and I'm sure it's really not like that. In reality, for most people in their day to day, going around their day to day business. Hey Steve, how you doing? Brown sauce, or Don, this is what you need to call it if you want to impress your friends, your American friends. You got to call it daddy sauce. That's what we call it in the UK. I think it was the name of the brand maybe, but brown sauce in the UK was it was called daddy sauce. Um, so yeah, that's what we call the brown sauce. But yeah, brown sauce. Um, yeah, proper vinegar and salt on your cod or your. I do like haddock actually. Haddock, I think haddock kind of batters for me. Batter's better for me, I think, just personally. I do like cod though. I think haddock's got a little bit more flavour as well. Daddy sauce. Yeah, I guess it's one of those things, wasn't it? I guess you didn't even think about it being a PC thing or not back in the day. I like that kind of thing anyway. You know, can you imagine if someone released a daddy sauce nowadays? Where's mummy? What about mummy's sauce? I never liked like as a Cockney geezer. It's probably sacred. It's probably blasphemy, but I never get jellied eels. Jellied eels. All the people in my family, well, mostly the men actually of a certain age like jellied eels, but yeah, jellied eels. Oof, I just could never do it. I like cockles and whelks and all that kind of stuff, but the you don't get them so much now. We've got one where I live, but you used to get like the white kind of like mobile stand things that would sell fish, like shellfish directly from the. Oh, I've got a phone call. I'm just gonna have to mute myself for a bit. Sorry about that. That was my mum who did mention the weather, as you would expect. All right, Don, thanks a lot, mate, for the buffs. I'm not sure if anyone's seen him, but there's a guy on I can't remember what his name is, but there's a guy on YouTube. And I think he's from his accent, I think he's probably from Yorkshire, that kind of, that sort of vintage. And he's made a name for himself by going around to different cafes and stuff in the UK. He sets up a table outside and then just eats their food. I mean, he doesn't look very healthy on it, bless him, to be fair. But, you know, it's quite interesting that, yeah, it's quite interesting the things we'll watch on YouTube and make popular. It's funny. But yeah, he's got a funny personality as well, which always helps. But yeah, I was trying to remember what his name is. I can't remember what his name is, but yeah. I watched one recently where he went to a fish shop that's been voted the best fish and chips in the UK. But I think every area's got a fish and chip shop that's won awards and stuff and whatnot. We've got a really nice one here locally. Berserker with a weapon, not the best pull. There you go. Yeah, it's funny, this guy. And it's got to a point where people just come up to him while he's sitting outside the cafe waiting for his food. And it is basically normal. It's normality. Like, he just gets kids come up going, "Hey, all right, mate," you know, and all that kind of stuff. It is just literally just, it's no fake shit. It's just, oh, fish and chips. We had it the other day. We're trying to sell our flat at the moment because we downsized, you know, and we had like enough capital in our house that we sold, so we haven't got a mortgage and stuff, but we want to upsize again a little bit now. So, yeah, so we're trying to sell our flat at the moment, and we had a viewing on Friday evening, so we walked up to the fish shop while they were here. Yeah, I mean, proper vinegar and salt. Vinegar on first, let it soak in a bit, put the salt on, and the vinegar helps the salt to stick and soak in. That's basically it. That's exactly how it should be. Yeah, Great Divide, I'm in, mate, yeah. Ah, oh, Steve, we keep talking about moving to Italy. My wife, when she was young, like her parents took her to Italy a lot, and she's got a lot of friends in Italy, and we've spoken about it so much, but yeah, we kind of had to like she's up until the point where she passed recently. Like, she was her mum's carer for quite a few years, so you know, we couldn't really do anything and stuff. And yeah, it's just one of those. It's a big move, isn't it? And it's one of those things where people talk about it and they don't do it. Um, let's go back to town while my Spirit of Wolf's still going. But it's something you never do. There's always a reason not to do it. But yeah, we looked at. I'm not sure. Are you in the UK still, aren't you? How difficult is it? Oh, I think you've spoken about this before, and your wife's Italian, isn't she? I think we would have a lot of problems now. Um, but it'd probably be harder for us at the moment because of Brexit. Oh, I've never seen those before. Little shard things on the... I was about to click it, and I can't remember if it teleports you somewhere. I'm glad I didn't click it. That would have been a nightmare. Yeah, so it's probably harder for us at the moment. One of the only good things that old Sir Keir Starlin seems to be doing at the moment is he was talking about, you know, like deepening ties with Europe again. I don't know if that means it'll be easier for us to move there, but I think it's... you get these companies, but it always feels like a bit of a swizz. You know, like, we'll help you buy a house in, I don't know, Spain, and we'll help you move and all that kind of stuff, but it seems a bit... not sure about that. Italy's funny as well, because Jane's mum's funeral, like, some friends came over, and one of them's Italian. We was talking about various stuff, and was talking about he's talking about travel. He was saying how expensive it is to travel in London and how cheap it is to travel in Rome on the train, and the trains in the UK are extortionately cost. I mean, maybe they spend more money on the trains here than in Italy. I don't know. I've travelled on trains in Italy, and they seem to be perfectly fine. But we was talking about just the general politics of Italy, though, with regards to who's in charge, you know, and the corruption of officials, and, you know, and gangsters and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, he wasn't in any, you know, he wasn't under any illusion that there's certainly not problems there. But yeah, as I was saying, it's a place that we've always thought about moving to. We looked at, it's so cheap as well. You know, we were looking at like villas, lovely villas, not huge, but lovely villas with some land around them. Some of them had olive trees and stuff, and you know, and you're looking like, well, much less than 100 grand, 50, 60 grand. It's like crazy. Let's sell some of this stuff. I used to like collecting words. I'm not going to at the moment. I've got a character that's got bags full of words and stuff. I'll keep the enchanter ones though, because I've just started a new enchanter actually. Let's go and see how many heads I've got. I think I need 10. Oh, there's the shawl. Yeah, I've seen. I mean, I've got a bit of Norwegian, I think, Scandinavian anyway, in the family, and but I've never been. I'd love to go. We keep talking about doing a cruise up the fjords, but ...2015, yes. I looked recently. I don't know. I think people buy these helmets. I've only got one. Some crafted boots. I just need to go onto the wiki and see how many heads I need. I think it's 10. 10 heads. Okay, so I've got 8 heads at the moment, so I need to get a couple more. Okay, I'll keep the toes. People buy toes, don't they? People like toes. Actually, when I get to this, I forget what I said earlier. I get to when I get to places like this, I fully understand why the shrink cobalt piece is so expensive. It's just a pain in the arse. Just for the convenience, it's worth every penny, I would say. Sir Kid Starver, that was my favourite one. I chuckled a lot of that one. I don't know, I try not to talk about it, particularly with people that you know. But I was saying to a family member the other day, I can't believe people got hoodwinked into voting for. I'm not saying that anyone else was worth voting for over and above, but like Labour is not Labour at the moment, and has not been for a long time, and I can't believe that people fell for it. But there you go. I think it was just it was a vote against rather than a vote for. What I mean is that people were voting against someone they were angry with, or a party they were angry with, as opposed to voting for someone who they actually thought was, there you go. Yeah, it was interesting to see that only 60% of voters turned out to vote. And he got such a big majority, but actually got less votes than Corbyn got, and only a third of the country voted for him. But I suppose with the vote split so much, you don't really need a lot, do you? Some of the carvings, like artwork and stuff in the game, just phenomenal. Like how relevant they are as well to the lore. You've got a giant fighting a dragon here, which is pretty cool. I don't know why I'm doing that. They see through the bloody walls anyway. was looking around, like I do this every now and again, and I know I've kind of done the odd video and stuff on it, but I was looking around again at the interest in indie MMOs currently, and it's almost non-existent. And I think you can get a reasonable idea just from looking at streaming, and like hardly anyone has been streaming Pantheon at all. I mean, I would have thought that it would have been a lot more popular than it is, even taking into account all the issues it has had. Now that more people are allowed to play it, I honestly thought that more people would be playing it and watching it, but yeah, it's weird. I think maybe it just ties into the fact that people are just not, you know, are just not, you know, they lose interest and that's it. You know, you only get one chance. Oh, thanks for the buffs, mate. Much appreciated. Yeah, maybe that's it. You had your chance and we've moved on. It's weird. But yeah, but when you turn on Twitch and there's literally no one streaming it. I mean, recently they even increased the amount of time that people can stay in the game. I think they announced like they're going into early access at the end of the year as well. But yeah. Thanks for the buffs, friend. It's much appreciated. I actually really liked playing Pantheon, like the actual act of playing it. But once I saw the horrible leveling grind, that pretty much killed any interest I had in it. It was a shame because I think there's some. It's not Everquest, but I think they still had some interesting ideas in regards to combat and stuff. Quite enjoyed it. Yeah, I started earlier. I started Qualm when it first came out, but yeah, it just didn't. Oh, there's a head. Nice, one more head. The job's a good one. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that they sorted out the camera stuff. It's more like P99 now, is it? I've played quite a lot of No Man's Sky recently, and that has really been scratching an itch I've had for a long time of just some space exploration game. Yeah, it's really enjoying it. I still don't think it beats Star Citizen personally for the discovery point of view and for the, I guess, the feeling of being in space with regards to, what am I trying to say? Just with regards to the danger of being in space. Like No Man's Sky is infinitely better than Starfield from a space exploration point of view, but it's still quite safe. You know, it's difficult to get lost or stuck or die or whatever. But it's great from an exploration point of view. You do get to a point though where after you've visited I know that there are, you know, tons of galaxies and stuff in the game and infinite amount of planets, but it does get to a point where even when you find a new planet and you go to it, there's not a huge amount there. Occasionally you might find something new, a new material or whatever it may be, and you know, I quite enjoy scanning stuff. But Starfield did that quite well, you know, to be fair to it. Yeah, it does get to a point where you get to planets and there's not a lot on them, although you will occasionally find some interesting planets that, you know, rare ones and stuff. But it's cool, yeah, and there's loads of new added things to it. Like I've recently, you can get like you can get a freighter and a fleet of frigates, which is another little mini game where you send the frigates out on missions and stuff, and you get rewards and whatnot. And you you can build up you can upgrade your frigate and your your ships and all that kind of thing. But I've been looking for an S-class freighter. I can't seem to find one. I found a few. I saw on the internet there's a way of doing it, but this person was going on about, get your autosave here and then keep reloading if you don't get what you want, that kind of thing. I was like, oh, I can't bother to do that. I'm doing it the old-fashioned way and just travelling to different systems and checking out freighters to see if there's an S-class one. I'm still a newbie though. Like, I know there's all sorts of things that you can discover, like rare exotic ships, and I did get an S-class starship, but it's not awesome looking. It looks like a freighter. it looks like a boat essentially that flies through space. But it was an S-class one. It's the only one I've found so far. I keep looking out for them. But it is a great game for exploring and stuff, and yeah, it's really good. And I did try Elite Dangerous. I must confess, maybe I found it a bit too complicated. Maybe I was overcomplicating it myself. Like the flying and there's an awful lot of physics in that game, and I kind of felt like you almost needed to be a mathematician to work it all out. But I'm sure you didn't, and I was just. I'm sure it's not as complicated as it seems. But yeah, Elite Dangerous looks pretty cool. I think they kind of seem to almost forget about it though, didn't they? The developers. Oh, Dave. Almost felt like they've kind of not given up on it. I don't know. I still haven't played a game that gives that feeling like Star Citizen. For all the memes and issues and money, Star Citizen still does something unique, I think. And sometimes you kind of feel that it's actually getting towards being like a proper game as well as that. But maybe it's always destined to be what it is. Like a bit of a flashy techie demo with some of a game, with bits of a game. Maybe that's what it's destined to be. Yeah, I played a lot of Elite back in the day as well. Oh, cool! Yeah, I played on a couple of Star Wars Galaxy servers. I struggled to get into it, but I might give it another go. I think at the time I just wasn't really into. I was going through a period where I wasn't really playing MMOs much anyway. But I might give it another go. Yeah, but No Man's Sky certainly scratched the itch. And although I haven't seen even a fraction of the game, tiny fraction, I'm starting to feel now like I've seen a lot. Because as I said, you go to systems, you explore planets. There's not a huge amount to discover, and you move on to the next one. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. I did go through. I have finished the main quest, and I say finished the main quest. I've now got the part of the quest where I need to go to the centre of the galaxy. But I think when you get to the centre of the galaxy and finish that part of the quest, you can then move on to other galaxies. So that's what I need to do. Yeah, Star Citizen is an experience that I've never had in any game. It's a shame that they do struggle with bugs and stuff. You know how I feel about indie MMOs. I think that they're just. I think they've lost. I think they've lost their way. I don't think they really seem to understand the market or what players want. And I think they've moved so far away from classic MMOs. yeah, like getting in a ship, getting on in your ship in Star Citizen and taking off and flying off and discovering a planet and landing. I mean that experience is second to none. It's just fantastic. And there's a real feeling of danger as well. You know, you could actually get stuck on a planet. Um, you could get stranded in space. You know, it's like, whereas other games are a bit softer on that kind of that element. I've got it installed still. I haven't played it for a while, but I will run it up again. Because kind of it's funny because like games like No Man's Sky kind of put you in the mood to try other games that are maybe more hardcore than it. Oh, another helmet. uh, yeah, I got really got back in heavily into Everquest again because of Pantheon. Really, I played Pantheon. It didn't meet my expectations, and yeah, and it just I just thought I'd try Everquest again, and I just just got really into it. It's difficult. I mean, I have a huge issue with the monetization of the game. I mean, it is wrong. I feel it's morally wrong. You know, like releasing packages for thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. I just don't think is right. Um, However you look at it, I can't really. You could say that, you know, people don't need to spend the money on it. They don't have to, etc., etc. But I do think it is exploiting people who have got, you know, weakness for gambling or whatever it may be, that kind of thing. But at the same time, as I said, the game offers an experience that I've never had in a game, another game. And I think also what I found of it is that even though the experience is amazing of flying a ship and landing on a planet, getting out and just experiencing just the experience of it, it also is so disappointing in other areas. So like, you know, you get like you approach a planet. I can't remember what the name of the city is, but you approach a planet and you're flying around this massive city, and it's like, you know, it's like cyberpunk science fiction kind of like dream, and you land and you realize that you can only actually experience a very tiny portion of that city that you flew over, you know. And maybe it's unreasonable from a technology point of view, but I think the problem is that you fly over it and you see it and you think, well, I want to explore this place, but what you can actually explore is quite small. um, but then the actual space exploration side of it I really enjoyed. I think, I mean, the reason that I wanted to get into Elite Dangerous was I think that the exploration side of it is even more so. You know, there are so many systems and stuff to explore. I think the thing that put me off was it felt quite grindy to get to a point where you got a ship that you could kind of go wherever you wanted with, you know, and I wasn't sure if I was enjoying the gameplay loop enough to grind it out to get the ship. Yeah. But again, like I said, playing No Man's Sky, a bit like playing Pantheon, has got me in the mood for playing a space game that's maybe a bit more, a bit more hardcore. So those kind of games are a bit like EverQuest as well, aren't they? Like P99, where someone someone probably got into gaming just because of Star Citizen, and that's the only game they play. You know, that experience is what they were looking for, and so yeah. Because people are really into that, aren't they? Whether it's they build whole kind of like, you know, command centers around it. I know that my my brother-in-law is a like small aircraft. I think pilot. He's got a pilot's license, and him and a couple of friends recently bought a Boeing simulator, uh, and they're trying to kind of get it set up so they can like have like experience days where you pay to come and have a go on the simulator and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I've seen some amazing like Microsoft Flight Sim like, and Star Citizen like setups that people have got. You don't really get that, do you, for MMOs in general? I guess you can dress up as an ogre or something and sit in your chair and play it. That's about as far as interactive equipment that you need, beyond your mouse and keyboard. I kicked off a playthrough of Starfield again a little while ago. My intention was to visit every planet and scan everything on every planet, just as a bit of a challenge. And I'm not sure how far I've got. I did quite a lot of systems and was pretty much ignoring the storyline. It's a shame that how that game turned out, and it's a shame the discourse around it. The discourse around it is pretty much like the discourse around everything at the moment. You didn't like our game, that means you must be a X, Y, or Z. And you kind of miss the point of what the issues with the game were in the first place. I understand that some people loved it, but like playing No Man's Sky, which is a game that is, I don't know, what is it, 7, 8 years old now? Like you can see how limited Starfield was from an engine point of view. But it was weird, as I was saying to someone at the time, like when we were playing it, like we were both saying that this is just an absolute disaster. But at the same time, we were still playing it, because there is something about even the worst Bethesda games that do just draw you in, I know there was a big thing about a big patch recently, but I don't, a big patch that was going to change a load of stuff, but I don't think it really did change a huge amount in general. Yeah, I mean, I kind of, oh, there's my last head. I mean, I really did buy into Starfield. I got the special edition pack, and I bought the controller and all that kind of stuff. And as I said, like I was having a conversation with a friend, and we were both saying how terrible Starfield is, but we also couldn't stop playing it. It's one of those, it was one of those weird things. And I actually went back and started playing it, and I was flying around, going to every system, landing on the planets, and outside of all the technical problems and loading screens and crap guns and terrible shooting, it was still something compelling about it that was keeping me. I think what it was is that I was hoping that something would change. Do you know what I mean? It's like I don't know. It's like being in a bad relationship, and you should go, but you think, oh, maybe something will change. Maybe it will get better, and it was like that. When I kept landing on a planet and thinking, look, surely this planet is going to have something different. This planet is not going to have a cut and paste, one of the very limited kind of like maps they created for one of their bases or whatever it was. This is going to have something different. I'm going to find something new this time, something that I haven't seen before. And you keep telling yourself that for every planet that you visit. But yeah, it wasn't exactly. Yeah, I could see the potential in the game, and I was hoping that at some point the game would feed back to me that here you go, this is what you've been working towards all this time. But it wasn't like, I mean, I put a lot of time into my first playthrough, and I started hitting the systems that were like the far systems at the far ends that were the high level systems. And I thought to myself, like, surely these are the high end, high level systems. Like, you know, this is going to really feel like space exploration, and I'm in danger, and I'm going to feel lonely, and you know. But I got there, and it was just the same. It was just the same copy pasted, you know, bases. The mobs were the same. That was the one thing I couldn't understand. Like all of the antagonists you fought were all human. I didn't get it. I mean, you could land on a planet and shoot animals if you wanted, but there was no alien races. It was just weird. It just felt like it was created by a company that had a long time ago lost their mojo, and whoever is still there, and not the people that were, you know, that were that created the classics. I think even Todd himself really is kind of, he's a bit like Richard Garriott. Really, he's had his time, and I just don't think he's up to it for whatever reason. Yeah, like I was like I've played through the Mass Effect series or a number of times, like probably once a year on average since it came out. However long that is, 20 years, I'm not sure. 20 times, say. And I think it's probably my favourite like sci-fi RPG experience in that regard. And I was kind of hoping that Starfield would better that. I was hoping it would be, you know, I was hoping it would be a modern, thoroughly updated, you know, Mass Effect, and it just wasn't. You know, it was worse in every way, really. Even arguably the immersion of exploring planets and stuff. Yeah, I was hoping for. Before it came out, like people were saying, oh, maybe people are expecting too much. You know, I know someone when I did a video about it, someone on the comment said, maybe we're expecting too much. Like maybe, you know, I'm hoping for like a Daggerfall or a Morrowind in space, but it wasn't even that. You know, it wasn't even up to that quality. Certainly, the writing and the acting was not up to that quality. A lot, yeah. I mean, a lot is made of the, you know, the technical issues with the engine, and I know that the loading screens is a big thing, and rightly so. But I mean, holy smokes, like the writing and the characterization is just shockingly bad. It felt like it was written by by a load of angry, you know, it felt like angry Gen Z fan fiction. It was terrible fan fiction. It was just absolute shocking. What was weird is that, like previously in other Bethesda games, they've kind of found ways of hiding limitations, but they didn't even really try to hide it here. Like simple things like when you walk, for example, you could have hidden the fact that warping is just a loading screen and not had a loading screen. You know, you could have hung the ship in some, you know, repeating animation that looked like you were flying through hyperspace or whatever they call it in their game. So it's a loading screen, but the loading screen is hidden behind the fact that you're actually travelling through Maybe it could have been an option for people that wanted it. I don't understand why they didn't do that. Why they didn't have things that hid the limitations, which I think is something that they've been pretty good at before. Yeah, here's a, for those of you who want a hyperspace experience where it's not just a loading screen. Here's your ship flying through hyperspace, and you can stay here for the duration of the journey if you want to experience that. But I think you also would have needed to add in a meaningful energy system. You know, where you couldn't just fly anywhere. You know, you had to stop and refuel and all that kind of stuff. But it's the way it turned out when you look at it, when you look back and look at some of the interviews. I mean, I saw an interview with Todd Howard, I think before Starfield, where like their game design philosophy had got to a point where they didn't want to put any roadblocks in the way of the players, like none at all. So any kind of survival elements or any elements where you have to go and interact with a system, like refueling your ship or whatever it may be, you know, or making, you know, in No Man's Sky where you have to make, you know, hyperdrive fuel pods and stuff to refuel and that kind of thing, or you have to go to a planet and, you know, grind some resources to make energy. You know, they removed all of that. I just think it was a bit of a weird situation, bit of a strange design philosophy. But I think they just wanted players to get from A to B as quickly as possible without interacting with anything on the way, you know. And that would have been, I mean, I guess to a certain extent, Mass Effect is a little bit like that. But in Mass Effect, you know, the writing and acting is much better. And it got to a point where I didn't feel that I wanted to interact with any of the missions or the stories because it was just shockingly bad. The best idea that game had, and I interacted with it a fair bit, was I mean, I'm one of those people that's kind of sick of multiverses, but I quite like the way that it was implemented in the game. And I was actually doing speed runs through the game just to try and find an alternate reality that was a bit different. And there were some quite interesting ones, depending on decisions that you'd made previously. So that was quite interesting. And that was the most interesting thing about the game, actually, was trying to find an alternate reality when you respawned as a Starborn that was a bit different to the one that you were already in. I think the problem is companies get so big and the people at the head of those companies just get to a point where, well, I mean, I was involved in game development for a little while, and you know, I'd be at meetings where they were talking about mechanics and stuff in games, or from a testing point of view, you know, and you know, in a polite, maybe sometimes not even polite way. You know, you talk to the developers as a tester, or you'd be in a meeting and stuff, and someone will say, "Look, I'm sorry, this is shit. This is what you've implemented here. That's shit. You need to change it." And I don't feel that there's any discourse around this stuff in these companies, probably because they're all scared to offend one of them or whatever. But I don't think there's anyone saying to Todd Howard, "Look, Todd, this is shit, mate. You know, we need to put this right in some way." It's like everything's great and fine and lovely and it's brilliant, you know. It's just, yeah, weird. I mean, I can't believe that someone on the team, or maybe a tester or an external tester, wasn't playing it. I wasn't thinking to themselves, "Holy shit, these fucking loading screens are dreadful. Like, what is going on? But obviously they wouldn't say anything, I guess. Yeah, I mean, there's no creativity anymore. Like, risk averse is definitely a. They're risk averse to a point where it doesn't, you know, even if it's clear that there are massive issues of a game, they won't, you know. Outside of Everquest, I played a bit of No Man's Sky, but at the moment I'm kind of going back in time, looking for some games to play that I haven't played before, because there's really nothing that. I mean, Stalker. I mean, I'm a massive fan of the Stalker games, and Stalker 2 is a game I've been looking for a long time, but it was delayed again recently, and now I'm kind of wondering if that game is ever going to come out, and when it does come out, is it going to be a shit show? But yeah, like, I'm looking at games coming out, and I'm struggling to think of anything outside of that game that I mean, a couple of years ago, I would have been lapping up. I mean, I don't think there's much to go on, but I would have been lapping up any information about, you know, like a Witcher 4 or a Cyberpunk 2. But, you know, now CD Projekt Red have sold their soul to ESG investors. I've got no interest in that company whatsoever anymore. I haven't seen that wolf yet. There's like as I said before, there's a named wolf that floats around sometimes, but it's funny how people do lose sight of what it was that got them to where they were in the first place. When you think that, like, Todd Howard just joined Bethesda as just a normal dude, really, and like how he worked his way to where he was, and then what the company has become. sure if giants are just generally harder to disarm in general. But, my skill's not capped. I'm not quite sure what it goes up to. I guess it might be 150. I noticed a couple of the older scouts have started to green out, so I might try and find maybe an old world location to XP maybe, where I'm not sure if it's true. You know, they say that Velious mobs hit harder, got more hit points on average, and the same level mobs in Vanilla and Kunark, but yeah. Okay, mate. See you later. Yeah, I might run over to the city and then call it a day. Got a couple of tasks to do. A couple of side quests in real life. We'll get a couple more and then. I'm just gearing up for the football season again. I'm not sure. I've no idea how seasons work in America with baseball and American football and stuff. But yeah, it's football. The Premier League's coming around again pretty soon. I think it's not this weekend, but the weekend after it all starts again. Arsenal have bought a very, very decent Italian defender. That's all so far. I think we've got some other irons in the fire. We've been in America actually, Arsenal. Not sure if anyone's a fan or they follow it, but yeah, they did like a pre-season tour thing. Does anyone watch any streaming, any EverQuest streaming anywhere else, like on Twitch and stuff? I often go to the EverQuest tab on Twitch. I'm there now, but there's been quite a lot of teak recently. There's a couple of guys that still play P99, but I can't really like one of them. Their chat's a bit, their chat is a bit like I can't really deal with that. Don't want to listen to that kind of thing. Bit of qualm and stuff. I noticed that on EverQuest is one of those games where kind of people really come and go, and then you don't see them again. So like someone will pick up like a teak because it's a new server. Hashtag trying out EverQuest again after however long. You never seen them again. They don't like move on to P99 or something. It's just like a, No, it's blue, mate, this one. It's blue. Hey, mate, how you doing? Should we pull that dude? Let's pull that dude. Let's pull that dude. So, this session we've got our giant heads for the second shawl thing. I think I'll probably stop the shawl there. It's the easy bit. I think I need some trade skilling for the next bit. I could probably just level off these guys as well to 48. I might try and find somewhere a bit easier to level. I say easier, maybe mobs with a few less hit points and stuff. I think a couple of people suggested Soul B or something, Bats and Bugs or whatever, but I don't really know much about that. I haven't really been there much, so I don't know a huge amount about it, so it might be a good place to learn, but I think I'll probably go and farm some root nets. I might go down to, I'm not sure if it's Crystal Caverns. There are some root nets that you can get off the crystal spider things. Might go there instead. I think it's just free still, blue, green, and red. There's been no talk of merging or whatever for quite some time. I kind of don't see any merge ever happening myself. I think it's just, I think it would be a logistical nightmare, really. I think also they've got, I'm not sure how many people are working on things now. I know recently they said that the petitioning for lost items and stuff is like I don't know about a year and a half behind. So at the moment, if you're waiting for something, you've literally got no chance. I think they even said, look, just try and do it again or do it yourself or whatever or something. Yeah. So I don't think they've probably got the stuff going on to merge servers and whatnot and stuff. I think they only ever said it was a possibility anyway. I'm not sure they, At one point I kind of saw something where they said it was going to be it was going to continuous thing. So they release green, eventually merge it with blue, then release a new fresh server and have those kind of rotation thing going on. But yeah, it's quite a long time ago now, so. I think it really varies by season, doesn't it? Like, I mean, it was, I logged in, I mean, I'm off peak, but I logged in this morning and it was pretty quiet. I think there was about 130 players logged in. I mean, you know, that's probably still more than all the indie MMOs together who've got logged in at the same time. But yeah, it's pretty quiet for P99. Green's got more players, I would say. I'm not sure what it's like peak times, but off to peak, it's of average, maybe twice as many. Um, but I guess it's a summer, and it always feels quieter in the summer, I think, generally. I'm not sure. I've no idea about Qualm. I've got no idea how that's doing. Um, is that what peak times? Okie doke. I think you'll probably see that go up in the winter. You know, maybe double even. I think there's just a real. I think there's a real. Um, I think everything's low at the moment. I think that I think we've kind of reached a point on the classic MMO front where, you know, a lot of us have been playing Everquest on P99 for quite a long time. You know, and I know many of you have kind of drifted away from P99. You've kind of had enough, really. But you know, these kind of new indie MMOs, classic MMOs that are coming out, people are kind of rejecting those as well. So there's hardly anyone playing those. So everything seems pretty flat at the moment. I'm not sure. I'm sure that when Pantheon or Monster Memories comes out, you know, you'll see a spike in those games. Whether it maintains it or not is another thing. I feel that when I talk to people who play the game, who play P99 as I do mostly, um, and there's more people than you would think. Maybe it's the majority. I think there's a feeling that there's always a feeling that I get in that, you know, they kind of want to invest more time, but they probably want to be in a guild and they probably want to raid, but a lot of people just don't like the raiding scene. You know, they see it as quite toxic and whatnot. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I imagine it must be true to a certain point. Um, but I think it's like anything, isn't it? Particularly for someone who's starting out new. If you come into P99, you just want the EverQuest Classic experience for a while. It's fine, but if someone who's thinking about working up and raiding and stuff, you know, it's you got certain guilds, I guess have got like a monopoly on certain things and whatever. And I'm not saying it shouldn't be like that. That's just EverQuest how it was designed. But yeah, I'm not sure if I used to get quite a lot of people comment on videos saying I'm just trying out P99 now, because I saw your video and stuff. And you get a lot less of that now. I'm not sure. It's difficult to tell this time of year, as I said, but I'm not sure if there is always a fresh influx of new players coming in. I don't see it as much from comments on videos, but maybe there is. I think I think I think it's one of those things where I like the idea, but you'll always get players who will look at it as like some kind of like real life value source thing, and so they become really invested and so they make it for them it becomes like a job and like a career, and it yeah and it can make it not a particularly nice place. um, I don't mind the competitive nature of it. I just think there are always going to be some players who will take it upon themselves as being more of a, it's more than a game. It becomes like a lifestyle. And I think that, yeah, I don't find it impressive in any shape or form, because essentially it comes down to the people who win in that kind of thing are the people who've got the most time. Essentially, that's what I mean. People always talk about other MMO players, newer MMO players who haven't played EverQuest, talk about it being hard. And you even hear EverQuest classic players talking about it being hard, but this game is not hard. It's time consuming, and the people that are always going to win are the ones that have got the most time. And I don't feel that there's anything impressive about it. There's nothing wrong with it. If you want to spend your time playing EverQuest, that's fine. But it's not impressive in any way. It doesn't make you a better player. It just means that you can sit at your keyboard for a longer period of time. I don't know how you deal with that though. I don't know how you make something competitive or contested, and there's some kind of value to it beyond the fact that you can just sit down with your ranger logged in for 24 hours a day. I don't know, you know. Um, yeah, I don't think about it in that way, to be honest. We all care about various different things. I wouldn't say that someone who cares more about a 20-year-old elf sim than something else is less of a person. I don't look at it that way. Um, I just draw the line at someone, claiming to be better or whatever because they can sit at a keyboard for longer. If that's what they want to do, that's fine. But yeah, it doesn't make you a better player or anything. It just makes you, yeah, it just means that you're willing to commit more time than someone else is, and that's some people commit all their time to cycling or hang gliding or whatever it may be. It's as I said. I don't know what the answer is, but I wouldn't want to lose the competitive nature, but it would be good if it was tied more to, I don't know. I think these competitive things work a lot better in a PvP environment, but then the PvP environment has got to be up to scratch, which then means that the PvE side of things suffers. New World is a perfect example of that. I mean, in if you're playing New World as a PvE game, and you have to run around and click on a star metal node quicker than someone else, so you're competing for resources. Well, what's the point? It's like, why am I competing for resources I can craft in a PvE game? Um, now New World originally was going to be like a PvP only, so I can understand you competing for orichalcum ore because you can go to a place where it spawns and you can fight other guilds for it. I can understand that, but New World failed because it tried to balance between being a, a PvP game and a PvE game. Um, but see, while I think that a competitive, like, there are certain things competitively that are better if you tie them to PvP. I just think that I haven't come across a PvP system that's been robust enough to really support it. Because the problem is, and I remember someone pulling me up about this once, and it's not everyone, but in general, the biggest dickheads are either people that think that they're something because they can spend all day raiding, or they're PvP players. Those two groups of people attract the biggest dickheads, unfortunately. And my experience of playing quite a lot of PvP in Ultima Online, when it was PvP only, and some other games like Shadowbane, is that I haven't raided much on Everquest, so I can't, when I look at forums, the P99 forums, I listen to people talking about raiding. Some of them just like massive twats. But my experience of PvP, unfortunately, is that the biggest twats I've ever come across have been PvPers. Not all of them, you know. I'm not saying everyone is, but unfortunately, there are some people who just want to spoil someone else's game. They get off on it. That's just how it is. I saw it way back in Ultima Online, and things haven't really changed. It was exactly the same experience in Mortal Online 2 that I had. Now, it's not saying that you can't come up with a robust system that maybe works, but I don't know. It's like, but as a raiding EverQuest, I don't know. Like, I don't mind the fact that I don't mind the fact that you've got this first to engage thing. But what I don't like about it is the fact that the people that want to do that kind of have to dedicate their lives to it. That's what I don't like about it. But I don't know what the answer is. I don't think instancing is the answer, really. I don't mind. I'm not against instancing, but works fine in WoW. But in EverQuest, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's a. Yeah, but the problem with that, and I think it's been proven time and time again, and it's the reason that PvP MMOs eventually end up dying and not doing very well, is that most people don't want to do that. Most people don't want the time that they spend in an MMO to be dictated by how someone else is feeling. Ultimately, I know people like myself and yourself. I mean, I would love like a faction-based PvP server for EverQuest. Where there was like not guidelines and rules, but where there were things in place where you were kind of respectful. So like like whenever I meet anyone in the PvP MMO, my first reaction is just not just to kill them. Maybe there's some role playing aspect that could be had between like two opponents meeting, even if it turns out to be a fight. Unfortunately, there is a portion of that audience that just wants to kill people. They don't care. That's all they're there for. Some of them purposely want to make other people's experiences rubbish. And I think that is what's always going to hold back the PvP side of things, I think. I don't think Ashes Creations can be any different. They talk about like bandit systems or evil systems or whatever it is they call it. But I've seen these in other games before and they don't work. There's a certain type of player who will always find a way of making someone else's experience miserable if they can, unfortunately. And I think that those people kind of gravitate to those games. And I've seen people that don't even care if they get banned for it. You know, they're so into it, they will literally just buy it, create another account, do it. You know, it's they did, yeah. I mean, it was something that I always talked. There's something that I heard talk of, that there might be a PvP faction server in EverQuest on like P99, but as I said, I just don't think they've probably got the people or the, you know, the whatever to do it now. But yeah. But I mean, you know, as I said, I don't have a better answer for it. I mean, I don't care if someone wants to sit on EverQuest 24 hours a day and do the raiding and do that sort of stuff that's required. If they want to do that, that's entirely up to them. I just wish there was more of a way of making it more skill based, but I just don't. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I don't mind the first to engage system. As I said, I think that's quite. I think that race to a mob is quite good, and I imagine if you're experiencing it, I imagine it must be quite. You know, it must give you a bit of an adrenaline rush. But what it takes to be involved in that part of the game, yeah, it's not really. It's not something that I'd kind of really want to be a part of, even if my playtime was spent during peak times. I'm still not sure. I'd quite like to raid and try some different things, but I don't know if I'd want to, you know. Talking about the first to engage thing, I mean, I don't have anything against like two or three guilds like just attacking the same raid boss, and whoever does the most damage wins. That's fine. I don't know if you think that would be more exciting. Uh, I should do, yeah. I think that one should be called crits, and that one should be called skill gains, I guess. I do. It's something that I normally would do. Yeah, I mean, I'm not against, you know, um, I'm not against a couple of guilds turning up at a raid mob and then, you know, and then whoever does the most damage wins. That's fine. I don't mind that. I'm not quite sure why it's not like that. I'm not quite sure what the implications of that were or would have been. Like, did that throw up problems of its own? Uh, well, but I think that's just, but that is not just MMOs though, is it? I think you just have to accept that that's life. You know, there's always going to be people or groups of people that are just capable of more in any aspect. I don't really know how you. I don't really know how you. I mean, unless you instance everything and then make everything soloable or groupable. But I mean, even as someone who can't raid as much as they'd want, you know, I don't think I would want that. I mean, I don't think I'd want to be able to log in with a couple of friends and go to an instanced, you know, I don't know, avatar of war and kill it. I don't. That feels too far the other way. I still think you can. I still think you can have. Although the game's not hard, I still think you can feel. You still need to feel some sort of achievement with what you're doing. Um, Without instancing though, and letting everyone have their own raid mob. So what would you do then? Would you just instance all the content in EverQuest? Is that how you do it? I don't. I mean, as I said, even someone who doesn't really raid, um, I don't think I'd want to see that. Yeah, so it's just one of those situations where it's almost, it is how it is. There isn't a fix. So what can you do? It's just. But I don't. I mean, I don't look down on those people or whatever. If that's how they want to spend their time, I've got no problem at all. It's fine. Oh, really? What are they doing then? To be honest with you, I didn't even know Daybreak created their own games. I thought they just kind of bought other people's games, essentially, didn't they? I think they're involved with Lord of the Rings Online and Dungeons and Dragons Online, aren't they? But they didn't develop either of those games. Um, and I've honestly got no idea what they've changed on Everquest or what their input is. No idea. Yeah, but then I guess if there's no answer, all you can do is move on. It's. I'm not sure what the halfway house is between like classic EverQuest and World of Warcraft. Like, is there a step where things can be contested and whatever it is, and but it still doesn't require you to live your life in the game. I don't know. So. Yeah, but then I mean, well, from what I can see, like classic EverQuest, like hasn't died off. I mean, this is still this P99. I would argue is still doing better than most MMOs out there. Um, Outside of the obvious big ones, but even those ones have reached a point where you know population has declined massively, and people are not playing them as much as they were. I did try out Calm when it first came out, but I just couldn't get into it for whatever reason. Maybe I'll go back and give it another go. But well, yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, but you also have to take into account the people, the quiet majority in the middle who who, I don't know, maybe you could say they're looking for some kind of nostalgia that they're never going to recreate. But in my experience on the channel, there are thousands of people who are waiting for the next kind of classic MMO experience, whatever that may be. And thousands of people try every new MMO, classic MMO that comes out, and it looks as though like Monsters and Memories, for example, is going to follow that trend. You know, I think that they're sticking pretty close to the Everquest design philosophy, but there's a lot of excitement about that game. Yeah, I just don't agree. I guess, you know, I don't think that even as someone who doesn't compete for raid mobs and doesn't raid and stuff, I don't like if everyone who wanted to could suddenly kill, you know, a raid mob, then yeah, I don't. I mean, even just looking at it from an immersive aspect, you know, if anyone can kill a raid mob, well then it's not special anymore. And I do agree with you to a certain extent that it's designed for people who who just commit their life to it. But yeah, I don't know. Well, but again, that's just life, isn't it? It's not just MMOs. You know, not everyone has access to everything, and I think you just need to accept that. I mean, I don't have access to it, but that's but I wouldn't want to have access to it if it felt like it was all diminished in some way. I think if everyone could kill the raid mobs they wanted to, by making them just more available, then I think it would diminish the world as it is, and it would diminish the achievement. Now, if there was a way of making it, I don't know. As I said, I don't know what the answer is, but oh bugger! I was going to run over to town before my Spirit of Wolf ran out. No, I mean you can play a single player game and do whatever you like, or you can play. I don't know. You know, I mean, you can play New World, Lord of the Rings Online, or whatever. You know, there are loads of games out there where you can eventually get to a point where you can experience pretty much everything. If that's what you want, I mean, there are MMOs that are available that you can do that in. I don't think EverQuest needs to have that though, just because. I mean, actually, in some ways, I've quite often enjoyed living. You know, I've enjoyed living the experience of raid mobs that I'm never going to fight from watching YouTube videos and Twitch streams and stuff. You know, it's like yeah, I kind of feel maybe you're looking into it a bit emotionally, like words like gaslight and stuff. I'm not sure. Like I just don't think EverQuest would benefit from everyone being able to do what they wanted. You know, I just don't. It doesn't need to be like that. And there are games, there are MMOs that if you want to do that, you can do that. And I don't think it matters if there is an MMO where you can't do that. I just think it's you know. Well, they're not obsolete because people are still playing P99, and there are a lot of people waiting for the next classic MMO experience that's similar to EverQuest. You know, and there are people like new, not, you know, I'm sure it's not a massive market, but I know with Monsters of Memories, like I know some players who haven't played EverQuest that much before, who have tried it and are looking forward to it. Yeah, I don't think. Maybe MMOs in general are becoming obsolete. I don't. I don't see any of them doing super well at the moment. Are there any where the population consistently increases? Or I mean, I don't play WoW. I don't play classic WoW. I don't play WoW live anymore. But when I look at videos of people that do see it, that do play it, it doesn't seem as though it's flourishing. I watched a video yesterday, Asmongold, where like classic WoW has died or it's dying. I don't. Uh, yeah, I mean, I'd probably agree that it's more of an MMO issue in general as opposed to a particular. I think the reason that people play EverQuest still, and the reason that outside of whatever issues there are, is that it offers experiences like beyond raiding. Like for me as a non-raider, it offers experiences beyond raiding that other games, even single-player role-playing games, don't offer. Um, yeah, I don't know. Roguelite. I mean, roguelites have been around for a long time. I'm not sure. Um, I mean, I can see people expanding on the games that have been really popular recently, like you know, your Valheims and those kind of survive, build up from nothing kind of games. That seems to be the big. That seems to have been the big genre for quite some time. Those kind of games. Yeah, but I'm not sure that those two markets are compatible though. Really, I don't think people are suddenly going to go from. I mean, as someone who plays all games, I don't care what game I play. But if you're a dedicated MMORPG player, I'm not sure if you would go to a particular genre, just because. I mean, I'm a big like retro gamer, but it's not like I think that kind of thing can be over. Um, I think that can be that can that. I mean, I was looking at if you take the indie MMO scene for example, people keep going on about how marvelous the indie MMO scene, but when you look at it, there's a very very tiny amount of games that make it, and some of them make it purely because people like Asmongold play it, and for almost no other reason. But for every one, for every one good indie game that makes like Valheim, there are probably 1,000 others that sit on Steam with no, you know. Um, but for me, I guess I don't know. Like I'm not. I mean, for me, maybe it's easy because I'm not stuck to one. I'm not stuck to one kind of one genre really. You know, like I can go from EverQuest to Valheim to Cyberpunk to System Shock to Stalker to Fallout 2. You know, even back to Starfield and No Man's Sky, Dishonored 2 I played recently, and I can come back to EverQuest again. So for me, it's like, you know, I just go around. If I get fed up with a particular game, I'll just try something else. You know, it's like a. I mean, as I said, like I'm not one of those. Oh, what are those guys running for? I'm not one of those people on EverQuest, but you know, I'm fine with that. I just enjoy the parts of it that I enjoy, and kind of almost forget about the rest of it, which is. Like I mean, I don't know what the biggest or best games are, particularly in any one genre at the moment, really. And I mean, I get my retro fix from playing, playing actual retro games as opposed to, you know, like neo retro games. Um, yeah, I guess maybe that's why I don't. I mean, there was a period where I was trying to really get into modern retro games, but yeah, I just felt that why would I want to play a game like Ghouls and Ghosts when I can play Ghouls and Ghosts that was designed infinitely better than a modern version or whatever it may be, you know. As I said earlier, I like for some weird reason, like sometimes I get like enjoyment out of just seeing something vicariously through, or even just being a spectator. Uh, you know, the last time, as I said, I took a few weeks off uh, because of family bereavement. But like when I played before, I was logged in the Great Divide, and I saw a guild kind of getting together. They were I'm not sure what they were doing, but they were all meeting uh, just outside Ferg there, and I kind of just stood around and watched them, and I kind of quite enjoyed that. You know, I wasn't taking part, but I didn't film it or anything. It wasn't for content. I just was just kind of watching what they were doing and that kind of thing. And I think I'm going to settle on with MMOs is that you find something you like about an MMO, and then you kind of you pick the bits out that you like, and you experience those. And if there's bits that I can't experience, well, you know, maybe deep down I think to myself, well, I would quite like to experience it, but the bits that I'm enjoying enough, and the bits that I play P99 for that I enjoy, you know, I enjoy enough um, to, and I think that's been the issue with the. I think about it. I think that's been the issue with these modern indie MMOs, like classic MMOs, like whatever it is, Pantheon, Monsters of Memories, Embers Adrift, um, Stranded Avatar, whatever it may be, is that there are things I don't like about P99, but the bits that I do like about it, I really like, and that's why I continue to play the game. But these modern MMOs is I'm not finding anything in them for me to enjoy enough to continue playing over and above the things that frustrate me. And I think the problem is that when you haven't got a balance, the things that frustrate you would frustrate you more, that frustrate me more than they would do if they were in EverQuest, for example. So there might be a mechanic in another game another MMO that's very similar to EverQuest, but because I'm not enjoying anything in that game particularly, that lack of quality of life issue or mechanical, whatever it may be, annoys me more, and so it kind of becomes amplified. I mean, what I've always really wanted is someone to do like a single player EverQuest. So you take the dungeon crawling aspect from EverQuest, and you keep that that tactical and emergent gameplay, and then you build a single player game around it with a story, and like a single player EverQuest with the story of all the lore and everything that's happened. But that's really not, that's tricky. I'd imagine. Yeah, I mean, Monsters of Memory seems to be getting away from that a bit, but because that is sticking pretty accurately to EverQuest. But like most other MMOs I play, all the classes just feel, it's still homogenized. It doesn't really feel like there's any specialist roles. Even if certain classes have got a specialist skill, it just feels, you make no worries. Yeah, but as I said, I think that's the issue that I've got with many MMOs that I've played, is that the bits that I enjoy don't outweigh the bits that I don't enjoy. Whereas in EverQuest, they do vastly out. I mean, it's funny you talk about raiding. I think in my mind, raiding is almost like a different game, so I don't really think about it that much. But I can understand if you're someone who wants to experience it, and maybe you're quite competitive, but you don't like the competitiveness of where it is. I can understand how that would be frustrating. But for me, it's almost like a separate game. I almost don't think of it as part of my gameplay loop. And I guess that's probably why I still haven't got a character 60 on P99, because I guess it gets to a point where I kind of finish with a gameplay loop, and I know that to incorporate the next stage for that character is to get involved in raiding in some way. So I kind of just start a new character essentially, and then get to that point again. But as I said, the reason I keep repeating it is because I don't think anything beats EverQuest in that, in what it does well. So I haven't found anything yet that takes me away from EverQuest to something else. I played lots of single player games, but other than that, New World was almost it. I know New World gets a lot of crap, and rightly so, but the gameplay loop in New World of running around, opening chests and bashing rocks, is the way they've done it. It's amazing, but unfortunately, everything else around it is shit. That's why, yeah. Yeah, a lot of people say that their most enjoyable time in EverQuest is from 15 to 50. It's a lot of people have said that to me over the years. They get into the 50s and they start to get a nosebleed, and they'll go and start another character or something. Yeah, I mean, I'm on board with that in a sense that I almost see the raid aspect of P99 as a separate game that I'm just not playing, basically, and that's fine. Um, I did play MMO. I did play Mortal Online 2 for a bit, but again, maybe I was just unlucky. But I came across some right arseholes. There was a lot of bugs and stuff at the time as well. I mean, the world was amazing. Like, I loved Like I would go out in MO2 on my horse and just run around and go to locations where there wasn't anyone that was going to kill me essentially. Um, yeah, it's funny with New World. Like I'm still like I still look at some New World stuff occasionally, and I think the thing with New World is that, and I do feel again, I'm trying not to stereotype or typecast, but I think people who people who play MMOs for PvP, they seem to think that more people like PvP than actually do. I think PvP in MMOs over the years has become less popular, and I think it's really only a minority of people that enjoy it. But I've noticed with the PvP players that play New World, they seem to think that there are a load of people out there who are just waiting for New World to lean into PvP, but um, and if Amazon will lean into the PvP side, the game will suddenly be amazing and people will flock back, and that's just not the case. You know, I mean, the reason that New World diverted away from um, from being full PvP in the first place was the fact that the people who were playing it were saying, "Well, we don't want this." You know, um, yeah. I think PvPers think that more people want PvP in MMOs than they actually do, and I can understand it because it's kind of like this. It's this fallacy where you really want people to be more you want more people to PvP, so you kind of create this kind of illusion where if only the right game comes out and everyone will see how great PvP is, and they'll all do it. But the reality is that they won't. It's um, New World had its highest population where most people were just PvEing, running around opening chests and stuff. And now those people have moved away. It's a thing. Um, I mean, my time in I loved New World. Um, I loved, well, much like Everquest, there are bits about it that I loved, but the negatives eventually outweighed the positives. So that's why I mean, I actually, like recently, I went through and leveled a new character to 60 and I played a different way. Um, I did everything myself. So if I wanted something, I made it, or I quested for it, or it was a drop. I didn't buy anything or anything like that. I didn't fast travel, and it was amazing. I really enjoyed that experience. Um, I don't want to trigger people, but unfortunately, New World is is handicapped by the PvP, and I don't mean the fact that the game's got PvP. I mean the fact that the classes and the combat system has to be designed around PvP. So unfortunately, in PvE, they're just very bland. I mean, before the Shadow Gauntlet or whatever it was that was going to come out, I was so hyped for that. This was before I saw the skills and stuff. I thought, maybe I can summon a shadow pet, and it'll have all these control options, and I can put dots on. I was kind of thinking like Necromancer, I guess. But when it came out, I was mortally disappointed with the Shadow Gauntlet weapon. But when I thought about it afterwards, I thought to myself, well, it was never going to be like that, because like, how would that work in PvP? If you had a pet and you could dot people and you could root them and snare them or scare them off, whatever it is, that's never going to work. So the problem with New World from a PvE player's point of view is that every weapon that comes out has to fit into PvP. So I've never felt that those two worlds, I've never felt that you can get those two worlds to work together very well. I think that if you have a PvP system, because the skills or the classes or weapons have to be balanced to a certain extent, they don't have to be, but they feel that they have to be, so that's what they go towards, then everything just feels the same. Like the Shadow Gauntlet or whatever it's called. I can't remember what it was called. it just felt like every other weapon at the end of the day. It had a little bit of CC, but it was it was, you know, it was obviously very slow. Not very slow. It didn't last very long. In PvE, you couldn't really go into a dungeon and use a toolbox to manipulate the dungeon and control the dungeon. It was all about DPS at the end of the day. Yeah, I don't know. PvP players who play New World won't like to hear that, but and it's not PvP's fault. It's just the fact that I don't think you can. Yeah, I don't think you can mesh PvP and PvE together so that you get a fulfilling experience from both of them. Yeah, I mean, what I would have done in New World is like create. What I would do in New World is I would create a new skill tree for every weapon that was PVE focused. So you couldn't use it in PvP. It was purely PVE focused, and it gave PvE players who were only interested in that a more satisfying experience. Now I understand that PvP players who play New World still have issues, and they feel that more time should be spent on the PvP aspect. I don't disagree with that, but that seemed a no-brainer to me in New World. Like, create a new skill tree for every weapon, and it's just PvE based. So it gives you a more tactical, maybe a slower experience. You know, it's maybe the CC is more powerful. Maybe, you know, you pull a group of mobs and you've got more ways of manipulating them and controlling them, whatever it may be. But don't do that and ignore PvP. Obviously, address those concerns as well. But yeah, but I think that's probably where it would work best. Whereas the PvP system, as someone said there, is its own ecosystem. And if you participate in PvP, you know, the class, weapon, skills, whatever it may be, operate within that ecosystem, and then the PvE one is separate in some way. And as I said, like, you don't really need to go to the trouble of balancing the skills twice. Like in New World, just create a different tree for each weapon. You know, maybe the Shadow Gauntlet can have a skill tree where you can summon a pet and all this other kind of stuff. You know, I don't know. I guess the other thing as well in that regard is that, for the most part, the combat is also designed around the original PvP system. So the combat is kind of designed very actiony to happen quickly. I suppose the thing is that even if you created a new skill tree in New World that was more PvE focused, it's still probably not going to be. It's not going to be like Everquest, because the combat is just designed in a completely different way. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was weird. It was funny when I was playing Ultra Online, and then they announced the PvE only shard. So if you wanted, you could go to the PvE shard and not participate in PvP. And it was weird because, first of all, it was like many players were saying, "Oh, what are you, this pointless? What are you doing this for? No one's going to go and play that." And then when they realised that actually maybe the majority of players who were playing Ultra Online may not necessarily have been playing it for the PvP. I mean, I PvP'd, but I played it primarily for the immersion and the fact that it was an MMO, the first MMO that I played. So when the PvE shard came out, a lot of people did move over to it, and in the end, I would go back to the PvP ones occasionally, and there was hardly anyone playing. Yeah, it is what it is, and it's not a criticism. I just think that for quite some time now, I think that PvE MMO players kind of just seem to feel that there's more people that want a PvP than they do. And I've seen it a lot with New World recently, because it's the most recent game that I've played, you know, where they really think that if Amazon lean into PvP, everyone will come back and whatnot. And I just don't think that's reality. I think PvP is a small niche of MMOs. Hey Crow, how you doing? And I think people will find out with Ashes of Creation. I think there'll be an initial spike, but then when people get repeatedly killed by little Tommy, you know, over and over again. Maybe. Yeah, I think people may just get fed up with that. Um, uh, I don't think it needs to be the most fulfilling version, but I just think it's just a reality that it's probably going to be that it's going to be the the most played version. I don't think that. Yeah, I don't think it needs to be the real. As I said, like I've got this utopian. I've got this utopian look of a PvP game where you're running around in the world and you see someone who would potentially be an opponent, but they don't just attack you. Maybe there's some role playing. Maybe you have a conversation. You know, um, and then maybe you agree to go about your separate ways without fighting. Um, but I just think there are players that just don't want that. You know, I mean, I've met them. I've spoken to them. There are players who log into PvP games, not MMOs, but any game, and their whole life is ruining other people's games. They get a kick out of it. And unfortunately, until a game finds a way of punishing that, but it doesn't punish genuine PvP players or whatever it may be, I just don't think that it will be. But I do agree. I mean, PvE doesn't have to be more the best version or more fulfilling, but I do feel that it will be the most popular. And I haven't come across a game yet that's managed to kind of mix that. As I said, even Ultra Online, you know, when it was PvP only, that's how we all played it. But as soon as they released the PvE shard, it became apparent that a lot of people didn't actually want to play PvP. You know, but no, I think it would be cool. I mean, I would love to play like an EverQuest faction server. I didn't play it back in the day, but I would love to do that. And maybe your faction creates packs with like the other faction. You know, so like this area is neutral, but if you step into this area, we're going to attack you and all that kind of stuff. I'd even just like to see intelligent people make up some interesting plot points on the spot. As I said, you know, you meet someone in a PvP game, and then the first thought is just not to attack each other. You know, maybe you talk, maybe you sound each other out. You know, and all that kind of stuff. The thing is, like, let's look at this. let's go back 1,000 years. You're wandering around a forest in the UK, and you've got a bow or whatever, and you see someone else, right? And you don't know who they are. They're a stranger. They could be a bandit. They could just be not. You could just be two people who have met, and you just want to go about your way, but you're not sure. So what stops you from immediately attacking that person? Well, first of all, you might die in real life. Unfortunately, you haven't got that. You haven't got that punishment in an MMO. You just spawn and start again. You might not attack them because maybe they've got friends. You don't know. Maybe they're friendly. You don't know who they are. But you don't have any of those. Unfortunately, in a game, obviously, you don't have any of those consequences. So people can just be wankers in a game, just continually, and there's no repercussions of that. It's not like, you know. Well, that's good. I mean, if that's happening in MO2, then that's fine. You know, I think that would be. I think the problem is that for most people, the 60% of the time when that doesn't happen is just too much. Unfortunately, I think it's good that it happens. But I think for most people, see, what I don't understand is why you just don't like. You play a PvP game, and you're in a guild or a faction, and your faction is with someone else. Sorry, your faction is in, or your faction or your guild is in contesting with someone else, but. What you don't do, you just don't kill random people. But that requires some kind of like that requires people who kind of want to engage the game from a role playing point of view, as opposed to someone who just wants to ruin someone else's day. You know, so like I'm in a guild and we're at war with this guild, but if I come across Nobby McNobface in the street, you know, in the forest who's just chopping a tree, well, I'm not going to attack him. Why would I attack him? He's not an enemy. He's just some knob, right? So I don't understand why people can't play in that way. I don't know why. Well, let's say I don't know why I'm saying I don't know why there's people who want to ruin people's days. There are people who want to ruin people's days in real life. So why wouldn't they want to do it in an MMO? Of course, there are people who can't do that. But that's what I would. That was what I would be good to see, where you just get a game where people are playing and they just don't just attack people just for a laugh or whatever. You know, there's something behind it that's related to the game itself. You know, whether it's a faction or guild or whatever it may be. Yeah, I mean, permadeath might help that. I think the issue is that, like, even in MMOs with PvP systems that have got quite strict systems on being a murderer or whatever, unfortunately, there are people that just find ways around it. As I said before, like I've come across people who are willing to lose their account just to be a shithead, and they'll just get another account, you know, or lose their character. I think there's just too many people who want to ruin your day. Essentially, it's I don't know the way around it. You know, I mean, I've because actually I was quite excited for Ashes of Creation until I saw that it was like mostly open PvP, and I did look at their criminal system, and I don't see it really stopping the sort of people who are intent on yeah. Yeah, it's a shame because I do like the idea of, like, in New World, I like the idea of contested resources because it makes sense. You know, your guild turns up to mine something, and another guild turns up and tries to fight you off and get the spot. You know, I quite like that. I think that quite worked quite well in World of Warcraft initially as well, didn't it? Where, you know, Alliance would be somewhere and there were places where they met up and they fought for it and that kind of thing. I can kind of understand that, like, from going back to talking about competitiveness in MMOs. But I haven't come across a game that's managed to balance it correctly yet. It's like, as I said, it's like going back to the real world comparison. Like, in the real world, if you meet someone, you know, somewhere in some kind of medieval or fantasy setting, you don't know who they are, you know, even if you were that way inclined, you probably wouldn't just attack them because you've got a lot to lose. Whereas in MMOs, it's difficult in a game because what can you do to someone that would punish them enough or make them think about the risk enough where they wouldn't just randomly attack people just for a laugh? It's difficult. You take their account away, but they'll just get another account. You know, it's like, I've seen MMOs with karma systems and that before, and it doesn't seem to help. Like, people find glitches and exploits or ways of gaming the system, so they get around it. Yeah, I don't know. Like, maybe Ashes of Creation will come up with a system where it's like, you know, where it works. I don't think I've kind of seen a couple of games as well where they try to gate off locations as being good and bad, but I don't think that will. If you're not inclined to PvP, I don't think that will keep those players, because eventually you'll just see parts of the world that you don't go to because it's PvP. I don't think that really works either. Yeah, I mean, we don't know, do we? We don't get paid to know. But we'll see. Something. I mean, you know, I don't know. Like, for all that we we're a bit down, despondent with the MMO scene at the moment. Hopefully something comes along. Yeah, it's funny though, but I've seen people complain about that as well. I think in New World, like there were a lot of PvP players who, I think it was New World, maybe another game where it was too easy to run away. So you know, there would be people that would be flagged PvP because you got like an increased luck chance when you were opening a chest or whatever it was, and you would get PvP players would say, you know, oops, I got a phone call. I'll get it in a minute. Yeah, there was people that would say, PvP players say, well, people just keep running away and I can't catch them. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, it's difficult finding something that everyone's gonna be happy about. Anyway, like, I'm going to take this call. I'm going to go. Oh no, I'm not, 'cause it's just gone off. Yeah, it's difficult. I think it is really difficult. It's always been really difficult to have a game that's got PvP and PvE and have a satisfying experience on both sides. In fact, I don't think the game's done it yet, but you know, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. See, the thing with PvP as well is that I don't think it's even. I don't think it's even the dickheads who are just out of your way to who just intentionally just want to like ruin your day. The other thing as well is that just general players who just want to engage with other players because they like PvP. You know, it's like that's a problem as well. Even if it's done in a certain way, you know, I don't think you're ever going to attract a PvE crowd to PvP because, yeah, I just don't think that. I think even general PvP, if it's done in the right way, is still going to be annoying for someone who's not interested in it. You know, it's. I just think the two communities are just so far apart. You know. Well, I know. I mean, many of you have said to me before that you just don't like the idea of someone else deciding how your experience is going to be. And I think certainly the people that follow my channel, you know, in general, some of you have got to my age, you know, where you've got more time because your kids have moved out, wherever it is. But many of you are in that middle period where you don't have as much time as you used to have. And that time that you play in a game, you don't want someone else to decide if it's going to be a good experience or not. So you just avoid those games completely. I don't know, but when I was playing Mortal Online 2, I know there was a lot of crap about the developers and stuff who just weren't very good. Promising the earth, not implementing stuff. You know, Mortal Online 2 was essentially Mortal Online 1, but with a different skin and all that kind of. I know you get all those kind of things with developers when people moan about those kind of things when the game is not how they want it to be and whatnot. And I'm sure a lot of it's not true, but yeah, I did hear some bad stuff about the development of the game as well. But I might just give it another go, not seriously, but just you know, just create a character, run about, see what's what. I mean, I really enjoyed the world. Really did enjoy the world, and like, one of the most epic things I've done in a game actually was getting to. I saved up enough money to buy one of the magic spell book things, but it was over in a jungle location, a long way away. And I actually planned out my route and got there, and actually getting there was yeah. Was a real achievement. When I got there and I bought the book, it was a real achievement. I'm not sure if it's changed, but the other thing with Mortal Online 2 is it really didn't have any kind of PvE at all. Really, there were mobs you could fight, but it didn't feel very good. and you know, it's not like I didn't notice that there were many like camps of mobs around the world or dungeons or that kind of stuff. Again, I don't know if that's changed or not, but maybe they've included stuff. But yeah, it was very light on PvE as well, which for someone like me, you know, I enjoyed exploring the world, but after that, I kind of got a bit bored. It looked great though at the time. Like the world was phenomenally designed, and the draw distance as well. I remember being really good. I might give it a go. I mean, the reason I liked it was because it's got animal taming in, and any MMO that's got animal taming in, I'm attracted to. Uh, I played Shroud of the Avatar far longer than I should have done, just because of the animal taming thing. It was only when they kind of gated me out of the taming with ridiculous experience needs that I stopped playing. But I might give it a go again. I might look up an animal taming build. I like the way that you had to. I like the way that I kind of like the way that you learnt skills in the game, but I did think it was quite complex. So it was like to read this skill book, you kind of need to read this skill book first, and it might help if you read this skill book. I quite like the fact that you had to learn to read. I thought that was really cool, and I like the fact that there was um, what was I going to say? I like the fact that certain skill books and stuff were in areas far away, and you had to travel to it. I like that. I thought that was really cool. There were lots of things I liked about the game, but in the end, I'm an old bloke. I can't, if little Johnny jumps on me, I can't. I haven't got the inclination to try and beat him really. So, I just stand there and get beat up and respawn. I'll look into it though. I will have a look because there were things I liked about the game, and I'll look up some solo tamer builds and see how that goes. Anyway, guys, I've got to go because I've got to return a call and stuff. Yeah, but after a few weeks off for reasons, I'll probably be back doing some more things and whatnot. And yeah, anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you again soon.